Hey, if you're still awake, tonight we're finishing our conversation about pain. And I think one of the hardest truths about life is that pain rarely arrives when we're ready for it. Nobody schedules a heartbreak. Nobody plans loss. Nobody asks for disappointment. Pain simply arrives. And that leads me to the myth of control. I think one of the hardest lessons adulthood teaches us is how little control we actually have. We can make plans, set goals, prepare, organize, predict, and still find ourselves standing in the middle of something we never saw coming. Because pain rarely checks our schedule. It doesn't ask whether we're ready. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment. Loss arrives when it arrives. Change arrives when it arrives. Disappointment arrives when it arrives. And that's part of what makes pain feel unfair, feel unfamiliar. Because sometimes it is unfair. Sometimes it is unfamiliar. Sometimes there's no lesson hidden inside the moment. Sometimes something difficult simply happens. And we have to find a way to live through it. Because it's just another fork in the road. But eventually, every painful experience brings us towards a crossroad. Not immediately, not while the wound is fresh. Eventually, a place where we begin deciding what this experience will become. Because pain is powerful. It can make us softer or harder, more compassionate or more guarded, more understanding or more bitter. Pain doesn't automatically improve us. Suffering alone doesn't create wisdom. Reflection creates wisdom. Growth creates wisdom. Choosing to learn creates wisdom. That's why two people can experience the same pain and become completely different people afterwards. Which is completely true. David Goggins is a good example of pain and what it does. Him and his brother experienced the same pain from the same father. One became more harder and more understanding and improved himself by 1000%. And that was the male, and that was the man who could tell the story himself, David Goggins. I know that his brother passed away, so I won't speak on it because I don't speak on the dead in a negative manner without context. But he did become more compassionate, harder, more understanding due to pain. And shout out to him because he's one of my biggest inspirations ever in human society. He's one of my biggest ones. Ever, I'm talking about ever. Like he's up there with, to me, probably Michael Jackson and Kanye West. If Michael Jackson was the doer, Kanye West was the imaginaire, David Goggins is the ultimate form. No, that sounds pretty dumb. I digress. Being hurt versus living hurt. I think there's a difference between being hurt and living hurt. Being hurt is human. It's unavoidable. It's part of loving, part of hoping, part of existing. Living hurt is different. Living hurt happens when people becomes our permanent address. Let me repeat. Living hurt happens when pain becomes our permanent address, when the wound becomes our identity, when every decision starts flowing through an old injury. Pain can become convincing. It can tell us we'll never recover. It can tell us the safest thing to do is to stop trusting, stop hoping, stop risking, stop loving. But eventually, life asks a question. Not, why were you hurt? That isn't a question at all. Life asks, what now? What will you do with what's left? What will you build from here? Who will you become next? Because pain may shape part of the story, part of your story, part of your identity. But it doesn't get to write the ending. Not at all. It doesn't get to write it at all. You, the recovered version of you, the one that kept pushing through the pain version of you, the one that saw a way forward version of you, you get to write the ending. You get to write the story. You get to write the dream life that you want, or the nightmare that you always wanted. There isn't always a good and a bad and a perfect and an imperfect. It's just you. You decide which side do you want, if that makes any sense. On this channel, we talk a lot about dreams and beliefs and aspirations, but you can always be a nightmare version of you and let that pain write that story. That's if you want it to be. I think you're more powerful than that. I think you're stronger than that. I think your story runs deeper than that. So I ask you, the listener, from me, the speaker, a couple of questions. What pain changed you? What did it teach you? What story have you been telling yourself about it? Has your pain become something you experienced? Or something you started living inside of? Now that's deep. Don't live in your pain. Learn from it, grow from it, move forward from it. Pain is inevitable. What it becomes is not. Let me repeat that. Pain is inevitable. What it becomes is not. Pain can become bitterness or wisdom, resentment or compassion, a wall or a bridge. Eventually, we all reach the same question. What now? We don't get to choose every wound. We don't get to choose every loss. We don't get to choose every disappointment. But we do get to choose what grows around these experiences. We get to choose how we carry them. We get to choose what they mean. And maybe that's what healing is for. And that's where healing begins. To tie back to my point, probably my top 5 people: Kobe Bryant, Michael Jackson, Kanye West, David Goggins. That's all I got. I don't know who the 5th is. My mom. My mom. That's my top 5 people. I just want to go back to that topic because that was on my mind as I was talking to you guys. I digress. If you're still awake tonight, remember, pain may write part of your story, but it doesn't have to write the ending. That part still belongs to you. The room will reopen on Tuesday night. I'll leave the light on for you.